Shlomi, thank you so much for joining us. Can you maybe talk a little bit about your current role and your background?
Thank you, Misha. Nice talking to you as well. Yeah, my current role, I'm the CEO of INKY. INKY Technology is an email security vendor, startup, I would say, Series B. Main investor is Insight.
I understand. And I looked up your background. It seems you have a very interesting path into cybersecurity sales. Can you talk? So now we have like a point on the chart in your career. How did it start? How did you get into cybersecurity sales?
Well, life takes you in different routes, right? Interesting routes. So you just have to tag along. Honestly, I started as an engineer. 1995, telcos. I was writing code, and I didn't know much, but I knew that very dynamic market tech will open new opportunities for me, which was the case. I mean, 3 years after graduating, I had an opportunity to leave Tel Aviv, Israel, where I grew up, and moved to the Silicon Valley. Initially, it was only for 2 years, but here we are, 23 years later. Main objective was to come to the area here and just see for real, back then the .com era, including the burst. Then we have a few other waves. So as the waves, went from internet in 2000, mobile in 2010, mobile apps, iPhone come to becoming reality, security in the last 5 years. These to me were the large waves. I did focus only on startups, so I think until today I was part of 8 startups. 2 of them I ran myself. 3 of them did really well, others not so. But I like the small company. I like the innovative product, the pace, and also from a career point of view. Yeah, as an engineer, I realized very quickly that while this is where things are happening, you don't always have the bigger picture. So I moved from engineering to product, or engineer management to product to product marketing. Then I found myself in GM roles or more central role. Once you leave the product and you're not writing code anymore, and that's one of the tips to younger, if you will, professionals, you lose the edge. You cannot go back to write code. It's really hard. So if you're making this step, just think twice. For me, it was a no-brainer. I really enjoy and find qualities in myself that suits better to the business sides. And even as a CEO, I was mostly focused on outbound, growing the product, finding product market fit, and then leading the business team. So that's in a nutshell, and that's how I ended up in security. 5 years ago, was presented with an opportunity to run a small security company out of Tel Aviv, cyber ready. And obviously being here, penetrate the US market. That was also the thing that got me connected with INKY. As my job at Cyber Ready ended, I partnered with Dave Baggett, founder and CEO of INKY. Lots of correlation between the two: security, phishing, email, human element, all that good stuff. I think INKY represent today everything that I ever wanted to do on the security space.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that you mentioned writing code. I saw just recently, GitHub has this program. It's called Copilot. It's almost write the code for you. So I think it's technology in general and cybersecurity in particular. I think it's always a moving target. There's always something new. But it's
and the next big wave we're witnessing right now, and maybe my next wave in the next few years, AI, right? I mean, you mentioned some of it. Machines can write code, machines that can identify fish, machines that can generate fish. That's quite special what's happening out there.
For sure. No, it's certainly. It seems like any technology can be used for good or for evil, and it's amazing how quickly hacker groups and state-sponsored organizations adopt kind of everything that's good comes out, they try to turn around and subvert. But before we go there, I'm curious. You have a very unique position because you've been wearing so many different hats. You have the product experience. Well, you have technological background, but you also have a product experience, also general management, business development, and now revenue. So we have a very wide spectrum of kind of different functions. So you see almost like 360 how the organization works. And now you're kind of spearheading the revenue function of the organization. I think that gives you a very interesting vantage point. I was wondering what kind of words of wisdom and advice you can offer to maybe more junior professionals who are either looking to transition from technology into sales or technology sales into cybersecurity sales. For someone who's kind of just maybe earlier in their career path or maybe a little bit more junior, what would you recommend? What are the top 3 things they should focus on in your view to stack the deck in their favor and set them up for success?
Yeah, I'll divide the group, sales professional into 2. There are sales professional that have a product background. I mean, these are usually, good sales engineers or engineers that have, the passion and the skills to, do outbound communication and explain, how things are really working. For these guys, I think a huge advantage selling anything, honestly, in life is understanding how it works from the inside. That served me really well. So the years I spent, studying computer science and then working as a developer really made me comfortable talking to technical people and understand how things are built to the point that I can explain how they should be operated, the value proposition, all that good stuff. But not all of us are, computer science major or technical, and there are many smart and very capable salespeople that are just focused on sales. So for them, my advice, going back looking at the last 25 years, is first and foremost, if you can, stick to the bigger waves, right? There are waves of technology. I mean, we talked about AI now. Previously, security is still strong going, but previously there was a mobile app and mobile phones and telco in general, and prior to that was internet. So if I look backward, I say, wow, I really rode some of these waves. I made some decisions that I regret now. For example, taking a job, I believe, can't even remember, 2005 maybe. I took a job with a company that are doing CRM specifically. And that was, a short engagement because I realized that, that's not, the market I want to be associated with. It's just very, it's big enough, but it's more of a vertical market. Now, the reason I think sticking and riding the bigger waves could pay off is that at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, salespeople and sales teams and sales executive will be the first one to pay the price when things are not working. And especially if you work in startups, 9 out of 10 will not make it. And you'll move along, which is fine. But as long as you're focusing on a big wave, then there'll be many other companies that you can, move to and take with you the knowledge and the Rolodex and network you build. And that, I think, is super important. So my advice is, when you're looking for considering your next job, do not be tempted to go after this cool, innovative product that will box you in a smaller market. Don't get impressed with a charismatic CEO, and there are many of them. Think big. Think about the wave and what wave you want to associate yourself with. If you're looking for a job right now, if you can find somewhere that will be associated with machine learning, AI, etc., I think it will pay off. It's just too difficult. Average tenure for sales guys 2 to 4 years to go out and specialize in a new kind of product, new kind of vertical every 2 to 4 years. So just try to stick with the bigger waves. I think that pays off really well.
It makes a lot of sense. It's I think this kind of advice also helps not just professionals looking for a job, but also investors. Do you want to invest in a scheduling app for dog walkers, or do you want to invest in a startup that's putting satellites in low orbit to replace the GPS, the antiquated GPS systems. Like, take your pick. Like, which do you think is a bigger wave, which you think is a better opportunity, right? So it certainly makes a lot of sense. You mentioned a couple of times outbound, and again, it's kind of a moving target. There are so many kind of different waves, or sometimes, I mean, you can shiny penny probably is not a good is not a good analogy, but sometimes there are different themes. For a while, everyone was so excited about inbound that HubSpot popularized, and everyone was leaning into this. And I think very soon people realized that out of inbound, only a small fraction would convert into paying clients. Then it was all about large scale events, whether it's RSA or Black Hat or Gartner. Then with COVID, it went away. Then everyone leaned into virtual roundtables and webinars. So there was always like one new thing. Maybe ChatGPT is one of them, but I think fundamentally there is kind of a baseline core of tactics or strategies that work. So if you look in your toolbox, what's working for you now?
For us right now is a very efficient, in-house SDR team, and obviously they cannot lead by themselves. So there's got to be an effective marketing inbound asset that comes with it. For INKY, I think the last 2 years we've been like everybody else trying to find the product market fit, which we found, but also find the best or the most positive ROI from a marketing point of view in order to fill the top of the funnel with bidding. That's what drives everything, right? And if you look at today, I think enterprise is super challenging, just giving the environment. Enterprise, large companies are, budget is tight, they're not spending more. I was on the call this morning with existing customer. Hey, they need more services, but they don't have budget. The budget is tight, the budget is locked. Basically, everybody's looking to save a buck. That's for renewal. I mean, selling into a new account, yeah, you'll have to do much more. That part you have to be, aware of. If you're 100% enterprise, then you have to factor in some significant slow. What's working well for us is, last year we made a decision to focus on smaller customers and partnerships, and that proved to be very, very well for us. Proved to work very well for us, simply because for some reason the smaller companies are still moving fast. If they have as a partner an install base, that install base is pretty loyal. So from a partnership point of view, as long as you bring good products at the right price point, then business will grow. And that's what we're seeing. This is growing, especially with these two areas. In these two areas I mentioned, enterprise, again, we factor in some churn, we factor in some cost saving. I think that's going to be the situation in the next 6 to 12 months at least. Mm-hmm. So that would be my advice. I mean, just try and find things that are working outside of the enterprise.
Certainly. And by partners, you mean channel partners?
Channel partner, MSPs, resellers, consultants. I mean, anyone that has access to loyal install base.
Mm-hmm. Certainly makes a lot of sense. We do talk a lot to VPs of sales, chief revenue officers, and on one side, but also chief marketing officers on the other. It's always, again, both are responsible for revenue in the end of the day for the success of the business. But I think it's where in the spectrum kind of you draw the line. And I think it's a lot of times it comes to kind of generating demand and then harvesting demand. And I know that a lot of people are focusing on intent, and really they try to identify signals that show intent of their high value potential clients that fit their ICP profile, they fit their kind of target demographics, so to speak. And that's kind of really where the SDRs teams come in. But at the same time, the challenge that some of the companies that we talk to find is that at the end of the day, accounts that are showing intent tend to be, 5%, 10% of the total addressable market. And a lot of times for some companies, it's enough to fulfill their agenda and to satisfy their growth projections and top of the line growth. But often companies kind of pressed to find more accounts that fit their profile. And but if you go further upstream, if you reach out to executives who fit the profile by title, by industry, company size, but maybe they're a little bit more upstream in their customer journey, they tend to be not as responsive to any sort of outreach, whether it's SDRs looking to schedule a meeting or demo. And often, quite frankly, we see the flare-ups on LinkedIn, for example. A couple of days ago, I saw a CISO posting a long rant into how many emails he gets a day from salespeople.
Yeah.
So
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So what's your view on this? Like, how do you balance? Obviously, the main, like the bread and butter, dealing with accounts showing intent, because that's where the sales cycles are short. But how do you think about expanding that and working with marketing, I guess, to generate that demand? I mean, I basically, are you just drawing the line? If an account is showing intent, that's the sign for SDRs to do the outreach, or you're trying to engage them when they're more upstream in their journey as well?
Yeah, it's a great question. Made me think. What I've learned as a CRO, especially in the last 2 years, where I'm doing it just 100% of the time, is that, you know, there's some great technologies out there. The problem is that they're getting popular very quickly, and everybody's using them, so they're diminishing value, right? Think of LinkedIn Sales Navigator, great idea, and the concept's there, but as soon as people start using it, that's it. The target audience is saturated, and they're not listening anymore. Emails, ABM, intent now, great ideas by themselves. As you know, new technology, they work really well, and I'm sure that they deliver great value for early adopters. But as soon as everybody's adopting them, then, you know, first you lose your edge, and then the target audience is saturated. So you have to really either be there early on and be one of those early adopters, but if not, then find things that are going to work for you. The general thinking for me is that people buy for two reasons. They buy to, you know, save money or to make money. In cybersecurity, there is this extra reason to buy, is, you know, insurance and protection, and to show they did all the right things. But the larger the company in general, moving on to another topic, larger the company, the busier the CISO is. Everybody's going after the CISO. Everybody's chasing that, you know, top guy who makes the decision. But, you know, cybersecurity CISOs, chief security officers, enterprises, they're not accessible anymore. There's no way you can get them. They go walk in they'll go to shows, but they won't have a badge. You know, they're not reading your LinkedIn messages, and they're probably don't have the time to read all these emails. But they still have to buy. They still have to improve their stack. They still have to, you know, make sure that they're making all the right decisions. So you have to get into their mindset. Again, we're not focused on enterprise anymore, but if I have to sell into an enterprise and CISO, then I'll try and find a time where he's shopping, when he's looking, and it's probably going to be in peer groups. So he's going to ask his peers, and they have quite a few of them, about what their impression of specific vendor, because it's really hard today as a buyer, being on their shoes, to decide which one has the better product. Everybody has great marketers, everybody has beautiful website and collaterals, but you know, proof is in the pudding, and they don't have enough hours or weeks or months to test all these products, so they have to ask others. So you have to have a good network of I wouldn't call them sponsors, but, you know, ambassadors, people that use you, and you have to use your customers, the one that like you, in order to offer an unbiased kind of, you know, opinion. That's going to drive a lot of it. If you're into MSPs, same thing. They'll listen to your pitch. They'll be more accessible, but they're mostly going to talk to peer MSPs to hear about their experience. So that is something that you probably want to do For us, what's working really well, there are some cool technologies out there, but mostly face-to-face events. Events is the most has the most positive ROI for us. Every time you go to an event, these are smaller events, very focused. You're on the stage, and that triggers a conversation. After the demo, or they see the demo, they ask their peers, "What do you think about INKY?" And that drives a lot of the business.
I understand. And those events that are face-to-face, like smaller round
Yeah,
table.
yeah, face to face. That's it. Everybody wants to leave their houses. Everybody wants to go to Orlando. Everybody wants to go. I mean, there was one event in Cancun recently. They just want to go out back and travel and shake hands and all that, post pandemic, of course.
For sure, for sure. That's great. That's very interesting perspective. Well, I understand INKY is a anti-phishing solution essentially, right?
Yeah, we start as an anti-phishing solution, but right now we have a complete portfolio to protect email security, inbound, internal, outbound, attachment, all the good stuff. But it's all around email security.
Mm-hmm. And I think what you said is very true. I think when email just appeared, the response rate was 100%. There was novelty. It was not appropriated by the bad actors, but as with any channel, it degrades. And I think the same goes to phishing attacks, right? So the phishing frontier keeps moving, and you see more and more elaborate attacks and more elaborate whether social engineering. What's the most recent attack that kind of amazed you at how sophisticated and how efficient it was? If you don't mind sharing.
I can talk for. We're publishing fresh fish every 2 weeks or so, and some of them are really creative, but fundamentally what they all have in common is that they're coming from someone who pretends to be someone else. So either you pretend to be a CEO of a company sending, you got access to his account and you're pretending to be him and spreading the bad link or attachment, or you're pretending to be from a company you're not working for. So lots of brand impersonation. Oh, here's an email from Microsoft. Your Teams password is expired. Your Salesforce account's been locked, and they're all having this common theme, and that's how INKY started. Basically, was like if we can identify who's behind the keyboard, and if we can tell for sure he's pretending to be someone he's not, then most likely the email is bad. So the latest one was SVB, of course. After the drama there with the bank, going belly up. Very quickly, we caught a fish that's SVP. Now there are lots of version of that, but the key again was to identify that the source is not SVP. And to do that, it's really difficult. If you're only looking at the content of the email, the header, and do all the forensics, then yeah, you might be able to catch some, but some of these hackers, they're checking just a legitimate email from SVB, and they're just changing one link or attachment there, and now it becomes malicious. In order to know that it's not SVB, then you have to render it and see it as a real user, and see the SVB logo and tell yourself, well, this guy pretend to be from SVP. Let's go check if he's from SVP. That's our claim to fame is at INKY. We render and present each email to a machine, doing image comparison, correlating visible elements into a company, and then step 2 is verifying that it's really coming from that company. So we catch a lot of fish like that, including the SVP I just mentioned.
Makes sense. I think the most deadly ones are the ones that include social engineering aspect. A few months back, I saw one. It was talked about. I think it was a technology company, a fairly big one in Silicon Valley, and they were having a barbecue on Friday, and someone posted, I think, on Facebook about it. So on Saturday, an email came saying, subject line, check it out. Hey, what a great barbecue was yesterday. Check out the pictures. And there was a link. And it's so contextual, and if I was at the event, maybe I had a drink or two too many, I want to see those pictures if maybe it was something embarrassing. And it only takes one. It takes one person to click on the link or to download the attachment, and
Remind me of a great story, Misha, about a CEO I was selling to, mid-sized company. The CEO was, one of those very, I would say aggressive, but very, very CEO, right? He makes decision, and we sold them a fishing simulation, and we did the exact thing you mentioned. There was some party. Actually, we didn't know, but our email about pictures from the party last night came after the party that they had, and the CEO who was arguing to fire anyone who's clicking on, fish link, clicked on the fish link, and then he called us begging that we will not disclose it because then he's going to have to fire himself. But yeah, that's always relevancy. You're right on. Relevancy is right on. If you're traveling, if the CEO is traveling, and it's made public, that event might be used to trigger attack that many people will fall for. Many people will fall for, and I'll just say that when it comes to email fish, first, there's no company you can block all of them. It's just impossible. So you have to factor in that some of them will come through. The second is that you really want to use your end users, your employees, as a second line of defense or last line of defense, if you will. And in order to do that, you cannot rely on just new employee training or a monthly fish simulation. You really want to be with them and tell them what you think as a vendor about the email they just received. You didn't block it, but there are some signs there that are suspicious. Maybe a mentioning of words like credit cards, or just as a first-time sender, you never got an email from that person. Lots of the findings are non-conclusive. So we, oftentimes we scan all the emails, we scan 100% of the email, but 10% of the cases, we find signals that are telling us something's wrong. But if we block it, then we can upset the end user. He's not going to get the email. So we don't want to quarantine that email, but we're using that 1 out of 10, and we're adding information to the top of the email and telling them, look, this is what we found. What do you think? And that thing proved to work better than just making decisions based on technology only.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, because I think it's not just technology, it's not just people, it's both working together and being, I guess, staying vigilant and being aware of the new exploits and the new tricks, because it's always a moving target. It's always this efficient frontier always moving. I know we're coming up on time, Shlomi. Thank you for being so generous with offering your insights. What's the best way to connect with you?
LinkedIn, best way.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time. This was lots of fun.
Thank you, Misha. Appreciate it.